Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second session of our three-part social media workshop series, Social Media Strategy, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, led by digital marketing expert Kristen Naher, CEO of Bootcamp Digital. This second session, Overview of Social Channels and Strategies, focuses on the differences between several social channels and best practices for each one. This workshop is meant to be highly interactive, so Krista will be taking questions and comments throughout this 90-minute session. Simply type them in the chat box in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen throughout the session. Please note this session is being recorded so you can view it again. Let's get started. Welcome, Krista.
Excellent. Hi, and thanks for having me, and welcome back to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited today because we have time together to dive into the specific social networks that you can use. And what I want to do today is give you some practical and actionable tips that you can use to maximize your results on these platforms. And generally speaking, when we talk about how to be successful in any social network, we have a 5P strategy, and that is profile. So you need to have a good profile. Posting, you need to have a plan for posting content. Participating, so you need to be participating. Paid, which is obviously a paid strategy to support it. And then the last one is optimizing, so making sure that we're then optimizing everything that we're doing. So that's really sort of the key to success. And what I want to share with you today are sort of tips, tricks, and best practices in order to make the most out of your presence on social media. Now, we'll share a link in the chat with a link to the Dropbox. It's the same Dropbox link that we used last time. And I'm seeing somebody saying that they're unable to hear me. I'm not sure if it's only you. If the rest of you could let me know if my voice sounds okay, that'll help me to know if it's a one-time problem or it's one person is having a technical issue or if it's me. It is not only them. Okay. Let me check. Let me check my audio.
I'm hearing you fine, Krista, but.
Okay. I'm like, I think it's fine. It's using my regular microphone. Okay, good. So some of you can hear me just fine. Occasionally, obviously, with Zoom on both ends, there can sometimes be connection issues. So this is also being recorded. So hopefully, if you're having a really hard time and it continues, you can always watch the recording. Okay, so there is a Dropbox link in the chat. You'll have to scroll up a little bit. If you click on that link, you will be able to download a copy of the slides that we reviewed today. And you'll also find the presentation from last week in case you missed it. Plus, we've put together tons of resources for you. So we're not going to cover some of the sort of foundational steps to just creating a presence, because what we've done is we've put together guides for you on this already. So if you have questions about, well, how do I set up an Instagram account, or how do I get started by just setting up my Facebook presence, the best resource for those is the guides. What we're going to focus on today is some of the tips, best practices, and strategies that you can think about to get better results from your efforts on these platforms, so that you're really maximizing everything that you're doing in order to get the best results possible. As was mentioned earlier, and if you've joined any of these in the past, I want to make this as interactive as possible because I'm an expert in social media and digital marketing, but nobody knows your business like you do. So it would be great if you can share in the chat any experiences that you have. And if you're open to unmuting yourself, you can raise your hand and that will signal to me that you have something to share. And then I can call on you. You can come off mute and actually share with the group as well. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. Those of you who joined last week, you probably know the benefit that we got when other people were sharing. So the more you can share, the more we can help each other to do even better. So with that, let's dive in. You've already heard all about me, so I'm not going to tell you anything else. But this is stage 2 of a 3-part workshop. Last week, we covered strategy and planning. If you missed that, you can, of course, get the recording online. Today, now we're going to talk about how do you optimize your channel growth and get the best results possible from what you're doing on Facebook and Instagram. And then next week, what we're going to cover is workflow and measurement. I mentioned this last week, but we did a survey in advance of this program. And what surprised me is we asked all these questions about what do you want to learn about? And then at the end, it said, is there anything else? And the most popular thing that came up was time. Time. How do I save time? How do I structure some of this into the things that I'm already doing? And that's really going to be our focus on section 3. So if you have questions about time, process, and tools, that's what we'll cover next week. Otherwise, please ask your questions as we go. I have the chat open here, so I'm going to see all of your questions as they come in, and that way I'll be able to answer them as we go. So, okay, with that, let's dive in and get started. So what we're going to talk a little bit about is a few channel optimization tips. I'm going to talk about the social media landscape overall and give you some tips about where to focus and why. Then we'll dive in. Specifically, we're going to spend our time on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll cover how to get more followers, how to grow your engagements, and how to optimize your posts for each of those networks. So before we dive in, I did want to do a quick recap of what we talked about last week, because I think we all know how important it is. Hopefully after last week, we all know how important it is to have a clear strategy. One of the things that I realized that was new to me, so I've worked with FTD doing various webinars for a long time now. I would say we're approaching probably 10 years or something in doing these webinars. So I've been working with FTD on these webinars for a long time. And one of the things that I see is we often talk about just like how to take better pictures or how to do the individual elements better. And what I loved that we got to do last week was talk about the strategy. How do you set the stage to maximize your success by really thinking about why you're there and what you want out of it? And so as we think about the channels and the optimization tips, I'd like you to still keep this full funnel strategy in mind. And really, this should be the basis of everything you're posting anywhere. So we talked about sort of looking at a full funnel strategy, or depending on your business, maybe focusing on 1 or 2 phases. But regardless of where you are, the real important part is that you know why you're posting different things, because that will help you to measure success on the back end. So let's dive in and start with the social media platforms. When it comes to social media, there's sometimes this perception that I hear a lot that social media is changing all the time. How can we ever stay on top of it? And I've done this for a long time. I got started in 2006. I always say I'm so old school. I started social media on MySpace. If anyone else was on MySpace, drop it in the chat. I'd love to see who my other sweet MySpace friends are here. But I got started on MySpace. And what's really interesting as you look at these big platforms in social media, what's really interesting to me is that the features change a lot. Right? So if we think about Facebook, now there's lives and stories, and we have challenges with organic versus paid, for example. And if you don't know what all these things are, don't worry, I'm going to cover them. But we see these small changes in terms of the things you can do. But the basic idea of using the platform to connect with other humans, and the basic idea that a business needs to post interesting content, that has never changed. Same with Twitter. I actually created the first business account on Twitter back in I think 2006. And what's interesting is that the basics of what you would do there haven't really changed. So don't let those kinds of narratives stop you from driving in. Another piece of advice I'll give you is that it can be easy to get distracted and think you need to do everything. Some of you maybe are feeling pressured to be on TikTok. Some of you may be thinking, oh, am I missing out if I'm not on Snapchat, right? We as a profession of social media people do a horrible job by creating a lot of FOMO, right? And creating this idea, fear of missing out. Oh, I need to be everywhere to be successful. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. You don't. You're better off doing a couple things well than trying to do everything and not doing them very well. The truth of the matter is that this chart of the big social networks has been the same for at least 5 years. They haven't really changed. So, if you want a sustainable strategy, the best approach is to focus on the big players that have the biggest reach and proven strategies. So, if you happen to have someone on your staff, maybe who loves TikTok, is great at TikTok, and really wants to create TikTok content when they're working, sure, I wouldn't say don't do that if you have that unique opportunity. But if you're not familiar with TikTok, is it likely a good use of your resources to add a presence on there when maybe you're not even sure if you're maximizing Instagram yet? Probably not. So, what you want to think about really is doing fewer things better. I was talking to a business about this a few weeks ago, and I said, they said, well, yeah, but you gave me good ideas for Instagram and you gave me good ideas for this. And I said, yeah, but look, at the end of the day, you can do everything. And I can give you great things you could do everywhere, and many people can. But if you don't do any of them well enough, you'll never be getting traction, and you'll get on what I call the hamster wheel, where you feel like you're executing, executing, executing. You don't think anyone's really responsive, and you're not sure if it's working. When you look at success in social media, look, there's Instagram influencers who are able to get people to spend millions of dollars by promoting a dress. Do you think they care about their LinkedIn presence? No. There's YouTube people who do these unboxing videos and get millions of dollars for them. Do you think they're worried about how many followers they have on Instagram and building a presence there? No. So the point I'm making is that we're going to laser focus today on Facebook and Instagram because these are the two largest platforms. But really, if you think about where you can have success in the long run, Facebook is the largest and most prolific platform. Instagram is second to that. So spending your times on these platforms is going to give you the best chance of success. So again, some of you may be doing great things and having success on TikTok. That's great. And I wouldn't say you can't be successful or you shouldn't be successful. But what I would say is do fewer things well before you start adding more things to your list. Because every social network you add, it's like another mouth you got to feed, right? It's not about creating one video and walking away. It's about creating a sustainable presence over time. And sometimes that can be overwhelming if you have accounts in too many places. So when it comes to social, the key thing I want you to sort of take away from this graphic is there's a handful of big players that are most likely where you're going to reach most of your target audience. Beyond that, if you have a specific reason to do something else, or if there's someone in your organization who has passion and a particular talent, sure, go for it. But I wouldn't worry or feel this pressure that you need to do everything, because at the end of the day, you'll get better results for your business if you do a few things really well. The same is true with Facebook ads, right? There's people who run only Facebook ads and do great with them. So certainly don't have this pressure. Amy has a good question. This is a very good question, Amy. It's on the more advanced side, but she says, I was told that it helps with search engine optimization, or SEO, to have your website listed on as many sites as possible. Is that incorrect? So search engines look at over 500 factors, and they don't tell you exactly what they are, but they do tell you, generally speaking, what helps them to believe a website is important. And having links, so other websites that link to your website, is one of the biggest signals that tells Google that your website is important and increases your rankings. So that is 100% correct. The role that social media links play in that is maybe a little bit more questionable. If you're thinking about just the link in your profile, right? Having a presence on social media does help Google to see, oh, this looks like a real business, right? One of the things Google likes to understand is, well, does this look like a real business, right? And a real business does have some presence on social media. So sure, having some presence is helpful to Google seeing you're a real business, but generally speaking, anywhere that you can put a link yourself. So like in your Facebook profile where you put that link in there, Google doesn't really give you credit for that link. So when it comes to link building, anywhere, whether it's business directories, press releases, anything where you're inserting that link yourself, usually doesn't make a meaningful difference, if one at all, when it comes to search engines. So, this stuff is always so nuanced, but you are correct in that links help with your search engine optimization, but links you add yourself on social networks that you don't have a presence and no one clicks on isn't ultimately going to help with your SEO in any sort of a meaningful way. So I certainly would not create presences for that purpose. And I would say in general, if you are getting that advice, these were strategies people did 5+ years ago, before Google was as smart as they are right now. The thing you got to think about when it comes to Google or even the Facebook algorithm, anything you're going to do to like trick a system, the systems are smarter than you. Like they have artificial intelligence built in. They know how to spot these types of things, right? So anywhere where you can just create a link yourself, Google's not going to take that link very seriously because they're able to know what that is and that you put it there. So that's kind of the answer. So you're not wrong in what you've been told, but the way it applies to social links is probably a little bit different. Now, if you have great content on your website, maybe you have something like how to keep flowers alive as long as possible. So you have this really good content and other people are going to link to that. Sure, amplifying that on social media helps with that overall strategy, but that only really works if you have an audience and a lot of people clicking. So that's how I would kind of think of that. So yeah, you can certainly think about it as a part of the strategy, but I don't think it makes a meaningful difference in terms of links. So where are we at with social media right now? In May, I did a webinar with FTD on trends in social media. And one of the things that's really important to keep in mind, if you think about where we're at now with social, is that first of all, everything is happening on these guys, on your mobile phone. So you want to make sure that everything you're doing is optimized for mobile, everything. So if you're creating Instagram images with a lot of text on them, one, they probably don't do well anyways, but two, you want to make sure everything looks good on a phone because that's where more people are viewing it. But there's another implication to everyone switching over to mobile. And that implication is that people are spending less time looking at content. So they're scrolling really fast. And in fact, on Facebook's regular desktop newsfeed, people spend 2.5 seconds on a piece of content. On mobile, it's 1.7 seconds. So it's a lot shorter that people are spending when they go to mobile. So what that means is that it's more important than ever that we make sure we have good content that's breaking through. Because the other factor underlying all of this is that every social network works on an algorithm. And an algorithm basically means when I log into Facebook as a user and I go to my news feed, so I see what my friends are posting, the content that I see isn't the newest stuff. It's based on an algorithm or math that decides what I'm most likely to be interested in. An average Facebook user could be exposed to over 2,000 updates a day. 2,000 updates a day. Now, we're on our phones a lot, but not that much. So nobody could see all of the updates that they could potentially see. So Facebook and all these social networks use algorithms to decide what gets to the top and to decide what it is that you're actually going to see. Now, here's the thing about the algorithms. You can read all these hype articles, and I'm a culprit of this too sometimes, where people post, oh, there's an algorithm change, everything you need to know. But what the algorithm is trying to do at the end of the day is just show people the stuff they're most likely to be interested in. Show them the stuff they care about the most. So your main goal shouldn't necessarily be hacks or tricks to beat the algorithm. Your main goal should be posting stuff that people are interested in, because that is what is going to be a long-term strategy that breaks through the noise over time, again and again and again. And so as we think about our strategy for social media, I will give you some optimization tips, but most of these are sort of longer term things that work well, not these kind of hacky things that you can do to trick the algorithm. Okay, so let's dive in with Facebook and start talking about the first step, which is how do you grow your audience? And again, in the Dropbox, there are resources there. If you don't have a Facebook page set up yet and you want to see that step by step, check out the resources because it'll walk you through exactly how to do that. We're going to start assuming you have a presence and focus a little more on maximizing it. So one of the biggest things that you all asked for in the survey was, how do I grow my audience on social media? And the thing that's important to keep in mind is that there's not an easy or magical answer to this, unfortunately. Years ago, I spoke at an internet marketing conference on a panel with the person who's in charge of Facebook pages. So the Facebook employee who's in charge of pages. And she was talking about how to grow your audience. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to get these great tips that I can tell everyone, and then they're going to love me and I'm going to be even better at my job. Do you want to know what she said? Any guesses as to what her number one tip was? Those of you who are cynical enough will probably get it right. I don't know if anyone has a guess. You can drop it in the chat if you have a guess of what the big tip was. The big tip, run ads. So, of course, Facebook makes money on ads. So I'm going to do a better job than that, though, because there's a number of things that you can do that I think are worth thinking about if you want to grow your audience. But if you read anything that's like 10 ways to double your audience growth, it's all garbage. I cannot tell you how many businesses have read something about this and they're like, oh, I signed up for this like exchange, and none of that works. The truth of the matter is growing an audience is hard work, because at the end of the day, you need to attract people to like your page, and they need a reason for that. So there's a number of strategies that do work really well for this, right? The first thing, though, that I'm going to give you to grow your audience, and honestly, the Instagram tips are very similar. But the first thing to grow your audience is look for opportunities in your store and with your customers. If you step back for a minute, not a lot of people like a page of a business that they don't buy from. You've probably not liked a candy shop that you've never bought candy from, unless they're really aspirational and exciting, right? So you could also try and be really aspirational and exciting. But your lowest hanging fruit, the most obvious thing to do, is start with your customers. So usually that starts with in-store or in-person opportunities. There was a local shop that I used to go to in my neighborhood, and whenever I would check out, they would say, hey, if you like us on Facebook and show me, I can give you a coupon for 5% off next time. Simple, right? You don't even necessarily have to incentivize people if you have a good relationship with them. But what you want to do is look at the point in time where your customers are in your store interacting with you. Maybe there's times when they're waiting. So if they tend to, oftentimes cash registers and areas around cash registers are waiting zones for people. So think about maybe signage with a small incentive. The incentive doesn't have to be money, right? It can be get tips to take better care of your flowers, to keep them fresh longer. Connect with us on Facebook. enter to win a free bouquet, connect with us on Facebook. It can be different incentives that are either monetary or just inherently valuable to somebody, but look for that opportunity in store because that's usually the lowest hanging fruit. And I have almost never, in my 15 years of doing this, I've almost never worked with a business that could say that most of their customers were connected with them on Facebook, because we don't usually think of that easy low hanging fruit. We often think, oh, I need to add it to my website and throw it in an email. And you'll notice I don't have those tips on here because putting your social networks in an email results in 0.00001% of them clicking on it. Almost no one ever clicks on these links. Think about yourself. When's the last time you clicked on a social media link from a newsletter email? It's just not something people do. Your website, maybe a few more, but it's going to get you a small handful a month unless you have this crazy popular website, which most of us probably don't have. So in-store is a good opportunity for you. The second is you can run ads. You can run ads specifically on Facebook to get people to like your page. And depending on your targeting and whatnot, you can end up paying 50 cents to $1 a like. I would suggest, for your business, I don't know that I would necessarily run ads to get likes of my page. At the end of the day, we all sometimes get caught up in our follower numbers. I do too. But that's really a vanity metric, right? You're not in the business of being popular on the internet. You're in the business of selling people flowers. So if you can generate likes of people who want to buy flowers from you, that's what you need to focus on more specifically than just getting more likes. And often what we see when businesses run ads is their like numbers go up, but their engagement drops. And a lot of these people, despite your targeting, may not end up being in your target market. So you could test it. And I think one of the reasons to do this is maybe if you have a new account and you want to get that first 100 just to kind of establish yourself, or maybe if you're a larger business, you want that first 500. There certainly is something to be said about the social proof of having some level of a following, but I certainly wouldn't worry about it too much beyond that. One of the tried and true ways to get more people to like your page is through contesting, giveaways, sweepstakes, things like that. You can always look at that as an opportunity. And if that's something that you can promote in a multi-channel strategy, so if I'm running a contest that I can promote on my website, in my store, in my email newsletter, that can be a great way then to get people to your website. And if you are running social media contests, WooBox is a contest app that's one of the most popular ones to use. I put it in the chat if you're interested in running contests. But what it does is it takes care of the legal terms and conditions for you. It'll give you stuff you can drop on your website and run it through all the social networks, etc. But contests remain a good way to both drive more engagement from the existing fans that you have on your page and also attract new fans. Something you could even consider with contesting is to partner with other complementary businesses. So maybe there's a coffee shop next to you and it's a coffee shop and a rose contest or something, or a coffee and a rose, right? Or you could probably come up with more clever ideas than I can. But think about how you could maybe engage other businesses, because other businesses all have this same problem as well. You're not unique to that. And so maybe think about when someone comes to your shop, are there other adjacent businesses that they're also visiting that you could work with to run contests, or even just to tag those businesses in your content? Another strategy as we think about this sort of posting idea is to be able to consider posting about or tagging neighboring businesses. So one of the things that I think we sometimes forget is that we don't live in a bubble. And whatever target audience you want to reach, there's other people trying to reach them too, potentially more effectively than you are. And so one of the things that you can consider is looking at other businesses and either just promoting them on your own or having a specific strategy to promote them. And the reason that this is so important is because one of the businesses that I always loved in social media, I spent 12 years living in Cincinnati. And one of the businesses I had always admired on social media was this shop called Taste of Belgium Waffles. And they now have a number of stores in Ohio and a few other places. But when they started on social media, they were so clever because, there's only so much you can say about waffles, even if they're really good. But what they would do is they were in a really sort of beloved market. And they would always be like, hey, come down to the market. And while you're here, get some dojo gelato and stop by this. And they would post about the other things going on. And that made them useful. But it also built up a ton of goodwill with the other businesses who would then say, oh, thanks, Taste of Belgium. And now they're all exposing each other to the same audiences, right? Because you don't go to a market and only buy one thing from one person. Everyone benefits. So you can also sort of think about what are those ecosystems that you have where everyone can benefit from partnering, and look at that as a contest opportunity, tagging other businesses and things like that. I'm going to show you actually a cool, okay, this is maybe in the category of tricks, but I'm going to show you something else really cool that you can do. So I'm bringing up my actual Facebook account. I always like to have a disclaimer, like, I don't know what my friends might start messaging me or what they could potentially post while we're here. So don't hold it against me. But I don't have that many questionable friends, but I have seen things pop up. But one of the other things you can do is, so if you have a paid strategy on social where you're, let's say, maybe boosting posts, and people are engaging with your content, what you can do is, once people have engaged, you can click this button right here. Oh, no, hang on, not that one. This one where it shows people who've liked your posts. And check this out. You can invite them to like your page. So anyone who engages with your content, you can then invite them to like your page. So one of our strategies for our Facebook page in general is that we promote all of our content. Because if we don't promote our content, we just promote it for $1 or $2. But if we don't promote our posts on Facebook, we just don't get a lot of visibility. So I promote my posts, but then I can come here and invite all the people who have liked a post. And now I have a really scalable way to start growing my fan base over time. So you can look at people who've engaged with your content. If you're not doing any kind of a paid strategy, chances are the people who like your page, or the people who are engaging, already have liked your page. So where am I in Facebook? I see somebody had asked. So I'm on my own Facebook page. So you have to be the administrator. And I just go to my post and then I click on the likes. And these people have all already liked my page. So if I'm not boosting, all of my likes are usually coming from people who already like my page. But you just click on right here, your likes, and then it'll show you if they already liked your page or if you can invite them. And bam, bam, bam. So this may be something, what we do in our workflow is, I don't try and do this every day, but this is like a weekly or a monthly task to just go in and grab all these people at once. So if you have more resources or downtime in your shop that you could use in this way, that's it's a great kind of like, I think of these as like low energy tasks. But otherwise, you could set it up as something that you're doing maybe weekly or monthly or something like that. So that's kind of my, I don't know. I said, don't do these hacky things. It's not really a hack. It's more of a tip that you can do to grow your page as well. But what I would really recommend you think about as you're looking for sustainable growth with your Facebook audience is to do what we call a touch point analysis. And this is true for Facebook or anything else. But what I always recommend is that sit down with a pen and paper and write down all of the different times and ways you come into contact with prospects or clients. So you want to just write down all of the different ways you could come into contact with somebody. And then once you've made that list, then what you want to do is ask yourself, when is the right time to do what? Because maybe you're doing email marketing and then you have Facebook and Instagram, let's say. So that's 3 things. So now maybe you want to think about how you prioritize those 3 things. So maybe actually at checkout, you say, I want to get them on my email list at checkout because we do seasonal sales and I want to really push reminders for Mother's Day and I could retarget these people with Facebook ads. Great. Maybe then in their thing they bring home, that's when you push Instagram, because honestly, every time I have flowers in my house, I take pictures of them. And I'm sure many people do, especially if it's a gifting occasion. So if you make a touch point analysis and say, here's all the times that people come into contact with us, then you're able to sort of look at all of the different ways you can make the ask and think about what is most effective. And it may take some trial and error. So one of the things that we do, we don't focus so much on getting our clients to follow us on social. We focus on getting them to leave reviews. That's like our big push. And so we tested different things with our follow-up emails, and that's how we got better at it. So if you're thinking about, okay, I want to send something home with people who have flowers to get them to post on Instagram, it may take you a couple iterations of what that call to action is to really nail it, which is okay. But think about all those touch points and then you'll start to see what works and doesn't work. Because what I've found in marketing is something could seem great, but sometimes it just doesn't work. So try different things and see what works. I see Amy asking, do you use your personal account to promote your business? I do personally. So everyone views their, when you think of Facebook, a business has a profile and a human has a page. It is I'm going to say this just in case anyone has set themselves up wrong, but it is against Facebook's terms of service to create a fake profile, to create a second profile, or any of this kind of stuff. So you need a real human with a real profile to manage the Facebook page. The audience cannot see the profile managing that page. So you can't go to Bootcamp Digital and see, oh, Krista posted that, but Melissa posted this. You won't be able to see it. But we do have to go in with our user accounts. That's what Facebook's terms of service say. And they regularly shut down fake accounts. So it's not, there's some stuff where you could skirt by. This isn't one that I would ever recommend messing around with. I just have seen too many businesses lose access to everything. So for me, if I think of how I use my personal account, I use it as a personal and professional tool. But, I'm a speaker and a business owner. I think if you're a business owner, there's a good chance you want to use your personal account to also promote your business. I do not often reshare posts from my business page because Facebook's algorithm, it's the worst of all of them for this, but Facebook's algorithm deprioritizes posts from businesses. Instagram actually does not do that. But Facebook will deprioritize a post from a business page because they want you to run an ad or to boost that post. So the same is true if you repost business page content. So if my page posts something and I share it on my personal account, it will get less visibility. I always create my own posts for my own account. And that way they also sound more authentic. And I think that works really well. One comment I'll make about using your personal accounts in this way is you don't want to overdo it and annoy your actual friends. I mean, maybe you don't like them and you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. But what continuously surprises me is I have a pretty large network on Facebook. I mean, they're almost all people I've met in real life, or we have so many mutual friends. But something that surprises me is I posted about hiring some roles a little while ago. And it didn't really get a lot of comments or traction. It certainly wasn't one of my more popular things. My kids are always so popular that no one cares about my business. So anyways, I had posted though about hiring and it didn't get a lot of traction. But then I had 3 follow-up phone calls with people who are friends, but also own businesses. And all 3 of them said to me, hey, I see you're hiring. Your business must be doing great. None of them interacted with the post. So within your personal network, there's a big opportunity with lurkers who look at stuff but don't post to create an impression. And when the time is right, maybe they recommend you. I see we have someone who's come off mute. I'm curious if you have something to share, or maybe it's also a mistake.
Just wanted to say hello.
Hi.
Hey.
And who is this?
Pardon?
Who is this?
Hi, it's Giovanni with the Flower Studio.
Excellent. Hi. Well, thank you for stopping in and saying hi. So, so definitely think about how you can, if you're a business owner yourself, I definitely would think about strategic ways to do it. And I see this with my friends who own businesses. I think the ones that get tuned out use their personal accounts only as a business account. And I've worked with a lot of businesses where people typically use personal accounts, and we can come up with a strategy where people are using their personal accounts. One is wildly successful selling on it. One of them is horribly unsuccessful. And the difference is the power of the actual relationships and how often that person is posting about business already. So if one person is constantly posting all this business content, people eventually tune that out unless they really love flowers, which, you know, I don't know. I like them, but I wouldn't want to hear one of my friends just posting about their business constantly. If you have a balanced approach and you have real friends with real relationships, you can do a lot to promote your business within those circles. So I do use my personal account to promote it. You do need to be a little careful here as well, because if you start to exclusively use your personal account for commercial purposes, Facebook, of course, can shut it down, claiming it's a commercial account. So business accounts are required to be pages on Facebook. So you certainly cannot do that. Somebody asks, what would be the best targeting geographical area for paid content or for paid ads, local, statewide, country, or several countries? You know your customers best. So I would think the nature of each business is a little bit different. In bigger cities, people are maybe used to traveling more. But what I would look at when it comes to targeting is, as a business owner or marketer, it's easy sometimes to get lost because we see, oh, well, okay, I know most of my customers live within 5 miles, but there's this guy who drives 30 miles just to get my flowers. Or the other day, someone said they were out of town. You should always consider your audience. If you were to say, what makes up like 60% of my purchases, that should be your targeting. So if 60 or 70% of your customers come from your city, use your city. If 60 or 70% of your customers come from a zip code, use the zip code. I mean, you could get into too small of a target audience there. I think you need at least 1,000 people to run an ad, but you can even do zip code or postal code for the Canadians or other people from other countries. I think Americans are the only ones who use zip codes, but you can use a postal code or a zip code to target on Facebook. So you can be very, very specific. And I would just match it to who your customers are. Think about that 60%, right? Because this random person that came from out of town and happened to stop there along the way, that's great, but that's not a repeatable strategy where you can find someone who lives somewhere else that's happening to walk by. So always it should match your customer base in terms of your targeting. That's what I would really focus on. Okay, so content optimization when it comes to Facebook. And I'm going to show you some examples afterwards. But the first is text. So with your text, you want it to be to the point, and it should immediately communicate an idea and be catchy. You can use long format storytelling. So a lot of people, and I used to be guilty of this, we used to say, keep your text short. The truth is, it doesn't have to be short, but it needs to get to the point. Do not use marketing speak. We're so excited. You're not excited. You're a business. Businesses don't have emotions, right? Come on down and get your half price flowers for blah, blah, blah. Just like love and a picture of a beautiful flower, half price and a picture of a beautiful flower. You can use long text if you're telling a story or something like that, but don't feel the need to make it long, and even look for opportunities where you can really just shorten it. And, you know, like you could post someone sitting with flowers all around, and it says things like, don't flowers make you feel so happy? This is Sandy and she's feeling relaxed, surrounded by, just like my happy place. That gets the message across. So think of how to get the message across as quickly as possible. even if that's long, that's okay. But every sentence, everything you're saying should serve a purpose and not just be this filler content. We sometimes just use these filler words because we feel like we need to say more. Don't do that. Your image or video is the most important thing. It needs to be captivating and grab attention. What stops the scroll in the news feed? It's the image or video. And what generally works best is content that looks like it belongs there. So, and this is a generalization because I have seen, especially in floral marketing, some arrangements and professional photography that is quite captivating and attention grabbing. Oftentimes what does work best is stuff that feels a little more authentic or is, again, captivating, standing out. You want to ask yourself, is this going to stand out? If I think of what I would maybe expect to see in a product catalog on your website, that is unlikely to grab a lot of attention on social media. So you need to make sure it is captivating, grabs attention. I always say, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, only the right picture is. So make your picture worth 1,000 words. So when it comes to getting engagements on Facebook, a lot of people ask, how do I get more engagements on Facebook? And I kind of say, why do you want engagements? So people have this idea in their head, and it sounds reasonable enough, that let's say I post a picture of flowers. I assume that if more people like it, that does more for my business, and they're more likely to come through the doors. That connection has never been shown to be true. Likes on social media are not necessarily correlated with any brand metrics or any probability of purchasing metrics. So it's not, from a marketing science standpoint, it's not necessarily true. Now, if you post engaging content people are interested in, they ought to be liking it more, but it shouldn't be your main metric of success. When I tell you about my personal account, all these people who did not like or comment, I didn't even know they saw it. It made a huge impression in them. So one of the things that's important to keep in mind about Facebook users is there's people who just like everything. My grandma will like anything you put in front of her on Facebook, I'm quite certain. Right? So if all you care about is likes, show your ads to my grandma and you'll feel really great about yourself. If you care about purchases, you don't want to worry as much about likes. Again, it's an indicator that people are interested in your content, but likers and buyers aren't always the same. So don't get too hung up on it is my point. If you do want engagements, create talkable content. So think about, what does somebody actually like? Oftentimes, if we think about topical content, I like that. We're designers, we thrive on likes. That's probably true. I'm a marketer, I strive on business. So we probably all do both. But what is talkable, right? It could be something really emotional. I did a workshop a couple years ago for the cell phone industry. And for whatever reason, they do Mother's Day marketing for cell phones. And what was interesting was I found two small cell phone providers that both did Mother's Day contests. Both of them were giving away a free phone, big dollar value. One did extremely well, one did not do well. The one that did really well, it was like, something along the lines of we know moms are the most important things in the world. Tell us why your mom deserves this phone. Super emotional, right? And people are like, they could be making it up, right? But they're like pouring their heart out in these posts. It was really emotional. They had over 1,000 comments. Same post. It was like, we're giving away a phone for Mother's Day. Leave a comment to enter. That's an easier ask, but it's not emotional. There's no context, so no one did it. So think about what makes your content talkable. Is it emotional? Is it stunning? Is it beautiful, right? There's all these different things that can make something talkable. But I always think the word remarkable means you would remark on it, right? You would tell someone about it. And I think we all have a pretty good inherent idea of what that is within our industry and our clients. So think about is this talkable? Is this remarkable? A few things that you can't do though, is you can create content specifically designed to get comments or engagements. You see these posts sometimes, right? Like this if whatever, love this if whatever, right? Like this if you prefer pink, use the heart if you prefer red. Facebook's algorithm, by the way, does not really like direct calls to like. The algorithm, like as long as 5 years ago, started downgrading posts. They call it like baiting or something. They really don't like it if you just go out and specifically ask, but you can play with some things, right? You could show two options and say hot or not, A or B. Many years ago, when I wrote my first book on visual social marketing, it was probably, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 years ago. And I interviewed this business called Coil Wholesale, and they sell wholesale wedding stuff. I don't know if anyone here knows them, but they were one of the leaders on Instagram when it first started to get popular. And what they would do is they would go to these like shows or whatever, where they would choose products and they would post them on Instagram and ask people to vote for what they wanted in their catalog. And it was great. And people loved it because it's interesting and it links back to their business. So you can look at things like that. Again, contests work well. You got to be a little careful with asking questions. I think, we all know that a business doesn't care, right? Like, are you having a great day? I'm sorry, flower company. I don't think you care. I'm not going to tell you the answer. But maybe if you say, you post a picture of me and you say, Krista on our staff is addicted to coffee. What do you think has the best coffee in this city? Everyone has an opinion on that. It's light and fun, and people may be more compelled to comment. And maybe they even tag different coffee houses, and then it can be a really fun thing. So you can try to create content specifically for engagements. So let's look at a few different options. So if we look at this, I think the picture, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments as we go. I'll kind of have an eye there and share with the group any observations you make, because again, we can all learn from each other. I'm not the only person here that you can learn from. So I would love it if you guys are open to sharing thoughts and ideas. But you can see here, I think this is a beautiful picture. The blue and purple on the blue background, it does certainly capture a little bit of attention. The biggest thing I would say when I look at this text is I would love it if they maybe broke it down somehow with emojis or bullet points. One of the things you notice with people on social media is they don't really like to read. So you got to really break down the text, even like one sentence, one line. And another copywriting tip is use short sentences. My favorite book on copywriting, if you like to read, I know some people do and some people don't. It's about copywriting. So if you're writing, hopefully you like reading. It's like 350 pages, it's a little big, but it's called The Copywriter's Handbook. And if you don't like to read, but you want to become a better copywriter, I have a book for you as well. This is the shortest book in my library. Do you see that? I don't know. It's like 30 pages maybe or something. It doesn't have page numbers, probably because then you would know how short it is. It's called This Book Will Teach You How to Write Better. And that's kind of the idea, right? Just get to the point. So with this text, I think they have a lot of creativity in their text, which is nice. It says, rich, deep blues found in the beautiful hydrangea and the extraordinary hyacinth offer serenity. Blue flowers have a calming effect. They cool the emotions and create a contemplative mood. So this is actually some really nice copy. I think if it was broken down well, it really could come across better. Most people seeing this much text together would be like, oh, I don't feel like reading that. Again, 1.7 to 2.5 seconds. That's what you're thinking about to grab attention. And if it's good, they'll stick around longer. But this is a nice post because the picture is beautiful. The idea of the text is great. A little bit of optimization could go a long way. Here's another example. Have a great weekend. Your flower friends are always here for you. So I think this picture, you could argue the background is a little cluttered, etc. But what I like about this is it feels pretty authentic. If I saw this in my news feed, I would think it was one of my friends at first, and I might even pause to see who it was. So the authenticity, the fact that this looks like natural content is what gives it an opportunity to stand out. What I don't love is your flower friends are always here for you. Like that's what I would call marketing speak. Like it doesn't actually, it doesn't actually mean anything to me, right? Your flower friends are always like, you have a store, I know you're open. What is it saying, right? And one of the things I ask a lot, we do a lot of copywriting as an organization. Usually other people on my team are doing it, but I'm like, what are you even trying to say? Like, what is the point, right? So oftentimes that I call it marketing speak. But I think this is a really nice post in terms of the image. A fun video can go a long way. So this is the same organization. Enter our Instagram giveaway to win a rainbow bouquet, a half a dozen cookies, and you see they're tagging a bakery and 2 free tickets too, and they're tagging someone else. So these 3 businesses have all gotten in on this idea together. They have a great little video. It looks like something you'd see on TikTok or on Amazon Reel. It's fast moving. It's kind of got a lot of motion to attract attention. That's an example of, fun video, smiling person in context, branding in the background. There's a lot of sort of subtle things going on that make this stand out. This is another example of a giveaway. This is, I would say, more in the category of things to avoid with a giveaway. So one of the things I always tell people is if you're running a giveaway and you have to write down the steps, you've made it too hard. I was at an event, this was a number of years ago, I was at a motorcycle event, and there was a company there selling these like completely beautiful motorcycle jackets, and they had a contest to win a jacket. And they're like, we're going to give away a jacket at this event. And they had created this content with their PR agency. So they spent a bunch of money for the genius behind this. This was the contest. I'm not even joking. You would go to their booth, they would take a Polaroid picture of you wearing a jacket, which is kind of nice, actually, a little cool hipstery. But then I would have to take a picture of the Polaroid on Instagram and tag 3 different accounts and use a hashtag. And what was amazing was this place was packed, easily tens of thousands of people. Many people got pictures with the jacket. I was literally the only person who followed the rules properly. And that's because I do social media for a living, so I paid attention. But I went up to them at the end of the day. I was like, you see, I have to win. I'm the only person who followed the rules. And, maybe you should think about your strategy at these events. I can't resist giving unsolicited marketing advice. But the idea here is great. The picture is nice. It feels authentic. It could grab attention. But you can see, follow the rules below to enter the contest to win a free floral arrangement similar to this picture. Way too many words, like free flowers, and you already said that. It's maybe nice to say the value. I was surprised that it's a $225 value, so maybe that makes people more likely to enter. But think about what text you really need to have there. Keep it short. Rules for entry. Follow our account and like this post. 2 things. Tag 3 of your friends that you think would want to follow our account. And then share this post on your story and tag us. They're really asking for 5 things. One of which is against Facebook's terms of service. You are not allowed to ask people to tag their friends in your posts. In a contest. That's against Facebook's terms of service. So great idea, but probably the execution, just by simplifying it, it could have done a lot better. I thought this was a really nice post. We talked last week about storytelling, and this is a family florist. Happy Mother's Day to our mom, Silvana. We're so proud and grateful to be your sons, and happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful moms out there. We're so lucky to have you. So nice storytelling, personalized. We have one person wearing something with the logo in it. So that's nice. It doesn't feel overly commercialized. One other tip that you can do. So we talked about creating this funnel content, right? Some content should be selling, some is for awareness, some is establishing your brand. We have all different content for all different reasons. If you're doing selling content, Facebook has a feature where you can actually tag your products in the images. And if someone hovers over them, it shows the product and the price, and you can click on it and then go directly to that product page on the website. In order to execute this, essentially what you need to do, I'm going to put it in the chat. You need to connect your catalog to Facebook. which sort of creates a little Facebook storefront. It doesn't mean that Facebook is going to run transactions for you, but it creates a shop page where all of your products are there, and then people can click and go to that exact product page. Then what you can do is basically tag your products in your images so people can hover over and go directly to that product. So especially if you have interesting products, this is a great way to optimize for shopping. So I would certainly recommend stuff like this. Okay, next up, we're going to talk a little bit about Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram are far and away the two largest players in social media. Facebook has like 2.5 billion with a B, billion users. Instagram is over a billion. I don't know the exact number. If you look at Snapchat, it's maybe 300,000. Twitter is around the same. It's not even, a third of the size of Instagram. The other thing that we see from a strategy standpoint, so what I hear all the time is, well, young people aren't on this anymore. I don't know how much you target young people, but if you have this feeling, something to keep in mind, and this isn't my opinion, this is data, is that most of the people on TikTok also have Instagram accounts. So you can reach the TikTok audience on Instagram. Same with Snapchat. You can reach the Snapchat audience on Instagram because it's the same people just using different platforms. So Instagram is the second biggest network. Generally speaking, when you think about the Instagram audience, it's going to be your under 40 audience. So you're seeing that evolve more and more, but typically that's who are the heavier users of Instagram. As it grows, like as we start to see Instagram coming over it is over the billion mark, it just is more reflective of the total population, right? So almost everyone is there now. So it's getting bigger and bigger. But if you want to grow your audience on Instagram, so you'll notice the first however many points are all the things I said for Facebook. So I'm not going to repeat those. But I have two unique opportunities for you, arguably three unique opportunities for you with Instagram specifically to grow your audience. The first one is sort of community outreach, commenting on other accounts, liking other accounts, etc. So if you look at Facebook, on Facebook, a business has a page. And a page has limited functionality. So a page cannot be friends with people. Somebody has to find your page and like it. You can't go as a page and comment on other people's stuff, right? Pages really just sit there. They post their own stuff. People have to come to that page. Instagram, all accounts have similar functionality. If you have a business account on Instagram, so on Instagram, a person and a business both have an account, but if you designate your account as a business account, you get access to extra features. You can run ads and you can unlock analytics. So you don't lose functionality and you don't get downgraded in Instagram's algorithm. So what that means is that the way you can behave on Instagram as a business is the same way a person can behave. So I always like to think of community outreach. If I know some of my customers, maybe I know some of them personally, I'm going to follow them on Instagram. Then they see I followed them. Maybe they follow me back. I can tag them. I can tag other businesses. I can tag the Chamber of Commerce. I can like the Chamber of Commerce's post. I can comment on people's posts. So if I have a customer that posted a picture of flowers they got, I can leave a comment. Hey, thanks so much. It means the world to us. So you can really sort of participate. And one of the top ways that accounts grow over time is a lot of this community outreach. The second thing is hashtags. When it comes to hashtags, I think you can use up to like 20 or 30 or something. Somebody else might know the exact number. Usually you don't need that many. I think aiming for 10 or 15 hashtags is plenty for an individual post. With hashtags, though, you want to think of it in terms of thirds. A third of your hashtags could be sort of big, broad ones: flowers, mental health, happiness, home decor. These are big hashtags. A lot of people are using them. A third of them, you want to be a little bit more specific. So that could be, floral arrangements, interior design, and your city, maybe. I'm just making stuff up, right? You could probably come up with more focused stuff. And then a third, you want to be really specific. So like when I lived in Cincinnati, my neighborhood was called Over the Rhine, and there were all these OTR hashtags that people would use. There's probably a neighborhood hashtag where your shop is located. By using these really niche hashtags, you're attracting that niche audience who's searching for that content. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is go to Instagram and look at your post analytics. So I have a screenshot on this slide. If you click on the analytics for an individual post, now you cannot do it on a desktop. I have no idea why. But to my knowledge, it doesn't work on a desktop because I was doing a training yesterday where I tried to look it up on my desktop and I couldn't see it. But you can get it on your phone. You can click on the analytics button. If you do not have the Instagram analytics button, that means your account is set up as a personal account and not a business account. You don't have to switch it to a business account, but if you want analytics or advertising, you do. There's no downside, and you just click a button that says switch to a business account. So you can switch your account into a business account, and then you can get access to analytics. What I think is helpful is, sure, I can see, the comments, the reach, et cetera. But if you look at the bottom where it says impressions, it shows you where you're getting impressions from home, from profile, from hashtags, and from other. So home means that people are seeing it in their newsfeed. Profile means somebody is going to your profile and seeing it there. And hashtags is the visibility you get from your hashtags. So this will help you to understand which parts of your strategy are working for you and where you're getting your visibility from. And so, for example, if I come here and I see, oh, I'm not getting anything from hashtags, then I want to start using different hashtags because obviously these are not working for me. If they're not getting any views of your content, you're just wasting your time. So then I can start experimenting and finding different ones to use. So those are some specific tips that you can use to grow your Instagram. When it comes to Instagram content, keep it light and fun. Instagram tends to be a less serious place for a lot of people. So you want to be sort of upbeat, fun. Emojis and bullets are great for Instagram. So you'll see a lot heavier use of emojis on Instagram. The audience there is more receptive to them, partly because it's a younger audience, but it also tends to be sort of a more lighthearted, fun social network. Obviously, your image needs to be captivating and attention grabbing. The most important thing is that you have authenticity here. So you really want to be as authentic as possible. When it comes to video, this is maybe surprising, but video does not perform as well on Instagram in general. You may have videos that perform well, but in general, it doesn't do as well as still images. Instagram's actually the only network that exists where this is true. So you could try Instagram Reels, which is like a section of Instagram that's kind of like TikTok, where you can add short, fun videos. Of course, if you're using stories, you can throw some short video clips in there. But in general, Instagram is not going to do as well with videos. You could do short ones. Boomerang videos could maybe be easy as like a fun way to show something, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. So when it comes to growing engagements, obviously similar to what we talked about earlier on Facebook, you can create content that warrants engagements or that sort of encourages them, asking a question, contests, etc. And you can try different things here to see what your audience responds to. But if they don't, the worst thing you can do is do something. Maybe I try hot or not, or I try A versus B, and no one replies. Don't keep doing it, right? Either change it or do something else. It might just be your audience doesn't care. Maybe your audience is too small. So if you think of, for every 100 people on Instagram, maybe one person wants to answer these kinds of questions. That's okay. If you feel like you're talking to an empty room, pivot and try something else. But again, engagements are not the metric. Look at reach, look at clicks, look at, it could be engagement as one of these indicators, but it shouldn't be your be all and end all. But one of the best things you can do to get engagements is this community building type of stuff. Reply to comments, comment on other people's stuff, follow other people, especially other small family-owned businesses. if you're a small business, you probably know who's following you, who's commenting on your stuff, or certainly the person managing your accounts does, and it builds goodwill. So if you're doing that to other businesses, then you have a great opportunity there. So here's an example of a post for Instagram. What I would say makes this stand out is it's an unusual composition. And so it captured my eyes immediately. They have a really strong hashtag strategy. So you can see they're using a lot of hashtags. And then they have, a short description. I would have maybe broken that out amongst a few different lines to just make it easier. But I think this is a nice post in terms of hitting some of those basics that drive attention and can draw more people in. This is, I thought, really cute. This is actually a video. I can't play the video in the slideshow, but it's the text comes up and it says how we start our mornings. And this guy comes out all excitedly and is picking them all up. And it's not rocket science. He's just picking them up, but it's engaging, it's light, it's fun. It's the perfect kind of stuff for Instagram. And you can see it has over 8,000 organic views from it. So just posting this kind of stuff, and you can see morning activities. That's what the caption is. So I had mentioned earlier, you don't need to over-explain everything. You don't need to say every morning we get fresh flowers that I love to bring them inside and make a bouquet. I see that. I see these giant flowers that you pick up. You don't need to explain the picture because there is a picture, right? Add to the picture. That's what your text should do. So in this case, it's a really cute video where he's picking them up. Nice, simple, direct, to the point. This is another example of, again, this is kind of a simpler image. But what I like about this is the storytelling. So the text here, and you can see 174 likes. So this is something that people are resonating with. Delicate garden roses that I just picked from my garden. I'm so incredibly grateful for everyone that supported our business this past week. Mother's Day is always very busy, but this year was wild. Hundreds of orders went out the door, and boy, did it feel good to see that many mamas celebrated. Thanks again for supporting this small business. It truly means the world to me. And she signed her name. Nice storytelling content for Instagram. This is something you would like. You read this and you're like, oh, even when I'm reading it, I feel like I want to give her a hug. I want to like it, right? When we talk about remarkable and think about what is like worthy, what is likable in your content, and we know it when we see it. So oftentimes it really is just a question of, putting it together in the context of the post. Authentic content also works really well. And as we think about authentic content, this is, I think, a great example. And this is from It's Health Florists. And I know you're here on the call. And here's something really interesting. Hopefully this is going to make you super happy to hear. So when I was chatting with Janet before this, she had said, oh, it's so exciting. They were on the last call and you put them in. And I have to be honest, I didn't do it on purpose. Here's what happened. And this is super interesting. I know it's you, right? Super interesting. So I'm looking on Facebook for florist examples, right? And here's what's interesting. And here's why likes and networks can matter is that when other people like something, it shows up higher in your newsfeed. So I'm actually based in Amsterdam right now. So in theory, when I'm searching florists, they should be showing me all stuff in Amsterdam, but they look at what my friends like. And so interestingly, I see my sister-in-law liked this. She's also Italian. She also lives in the Toronto area. And I'm 90% sure she got married in the place in this picture. How funny. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, do you know these people? Because she has a small family restaurant and they do a lot of catering. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's some weird connection. So I was like, hey, do you know these people? They're Italians in Toronto too. No, but there's all this stuff. And she liked the post. And she was like, I don't know them, but they're all over social media and everyone sees them all the time. Everyone sees them all the time, right? And so it really struck me that I was like, man, how funny if you wonder if your social media is working, it absolutely is. Now, she happened to like this post. And by the way, over 500 people have liked this post. But the thing that's interesting, and it actually, I see you tagged the location. So it's totally where they got married, which is funny. But what's really interesting, right, is by posting good content, you tagged the location in it. So now maybe the location gives it a like or a repost, and that gives you more visibility. So you can tag a location when you post on Instagram, and that's automatically going to increase your visibility. But then as people see you more and more, what do they think? Oh, they're a big deal. They're really good. A lot of people like them. I should use them if I have something big coming up. And she actually said, she's like, I haven't had an opportunity to use them yet, but everyone knows them on social media. So even people who haven't maybe come through the door yet, right? You're planting these seeds a little bit. And so I thought that was really, really interesting, this sort of connection to how I came across the content. So what's interesting, and I'll compliment your social media here because I think you're doing a great job. First of all, you tagged the location, which is an event center. So ideally they see it now, they feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. Secondly, your post, your text is short and to the point, right? Beautiful venue, beautiful day, beautiful people with a heart. It's catchy, it's short, it's light. Check out the wedding set we put together yesterday from the Untitled team with love. Super simple, to the point. I guess you reposted it from the person who's in the picture. So now you're tagging her personal account. Now she's personally involved in potentially sharing it. And then I thought this was quite clever. You put a few spaces so it's not cluttering the content, but then you have your contact information there. Oh, it's your sister. That's funny. So you have a few spaces and then you have your business contact info. So it's not detracting from the message at the top, because sometimes over commercialization not cheapens, but it does take away from the content sometimes. But what's really nice is you put some spaces and then you have your contact information there using the telephone emoji. It's, catchy, etc. Scroll down a little more, and then you have your hashtags, and you can see 520 likes. That's a, fairly sizable number of likes that you're getting on Instagram. And I would assume your reach is easily in the thousands if that's the number of likes that this gets. And it's a simple post, but I'd be willing to bet a part of why you're getting these 520 likes is consistency in posting over time as well. It's great personable content. If it's your sister, who's also your business partner, your customers probably all know her. So they see her face and she's smiling and they think, oh, nice, give it a like. And now you're starting to build that brand and that brand equity over time. And so I think this is a really nice example beyond just the mechanics of the Instagram post, in terms of, how to consider constructing things. And also what I really liked is the connection that you're famous and she's wearing your merchandise as well. So yeah, you've got everything going for you here, right? The branding is subtly in there. You also have tagged yourself. The advantage of tagging yourself is that then your name shows up in the content itself instead of just at the side. So that's also, I'd put in like the little tips kind of field. I wouldn't do it in every post, but when you tag yourself in a post, it shows your username in the image as well. So it's just an extra branding opportunity. So I thought this was really funny, and I would have loved to take credit and say I did it on purpose because I knew you'd be here, but I actually didn't. But that's how good your marketing is. So it's actually maybe better that it came up this way. So I thought that was really interesting and a great example there. Here's another example of a selling post where they're maybe a little bit more directly trying to sell a product. So they have a specific bouquet or arrangement, maybe is the right word here. blooms on repeat, no fuss, just flowers. Order a flower subscription today. Choose between weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or seasonally available in fresh and dried flower options. The best part, free delivery within the loop. Give it as a gift or keep it for yourself. Check out all the details online. So first of all, this got 202 likes. I think the picture is, I don't know, I'm not a composition expert, but I would maybe say, okay, the background could have had more contrast, but I think maybe what makes it stand out is the overwhelming lime green everywhere. And that matches their brand color, right? So it's a nice, subtly branded post because they chose a background in their brand colors that really makes their brand pop, even though you can't see, they don't have the logo in it, for example. I think they could have maybe got this message across with less text, like no fuss, just flowers. It's not real. I don't understand what they're saying, but I would probably think about what is the benefit of the subscription, right? Imagine fresh flowers at your doorstep every week. Wouldn't that bring a smile to your face every Friday after a long day's work? Maybe if you're posting it on Friday, or imagine you could start Monday with fresh flowers when you get home from work. Wouldn't that make my day suck less? I mean, probably you would need to do some wordsmithing to this. And then talk about the subscriptions. The other thing that I would suggest, and this is maybe a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, but counter to what a lot of people would suggest, is I would always put the URL, especially if you could shorten it, in the text if you're referring to a specific product. So when you share a URL on Instagram, it is not clickable in the description. So if they said, visit our website at blah, blah, blah.com/whatever, I cannot click on it. Instagram doesn't let you. But just saying, check out all the details online isn't very directive of like online where. And what you can do is like what I do all the time. If I see something I like on Instagram, I just open up a tab and type the URL into my browser. Or if they at least gave their homepage, maybe it's homepage, evefloralco.com/subscribe. That's short enough that I could then type it into my browser on my phone, and now I can take the action. So we talked a little bit last week, we talked not a little bit, but a lot about the strategy. And I think what you want to think about is really laser focusing the content of your posts on that strategy. So if you think of this post, the point is get a subscription. I didn't get that was the point until the third line, right? Flower subscription today. So what I would think about is maybe how do you make if the real goal is sell the flower subscription, then think about what's the benefit of the flower subscription? What is it that is going to attract me to it? Fresh flowers every week. It makes my Monday a little bit brighter. I save time. I don't have to go to the store, and it's free delivery, which is great, right? So something to think about is, focus on the audience and the benefit, not just what you want to sell them on, but why do they care? What's the benefit of the subscription? And that's how everything is marketed, and that will go a long way. So great post, something I would do to take it a little further. And then if Instagram is a part of your strategy, one of the best things you can do is build shareable moments and shareable content as much as possible. And I showed you this example last week. I want to just show it again because it's really one of the best examples I found of it. What they did was the box is talkable. You've been flirted, right? It's clever, it's interesting, and then you can't really see it, but you can't see it in this, but the Instagram handle and hashtag are in blue text just above those flowers on the box as well. So it's something clever. It's in a beautiful arrangement, and it has the calls to action to get someone to share. So think about how you can use it as a channel to create shareable moments. A few other ideas or strategies for both Facebook and Instagram that you can consider. One is using stories. The thing about stories is, so first of all, stories have much bigger adoption on Instagram than they do on Facebook. So more people post stories and consume stories on Instagram than Facebook by far. In general, on both platforms, you get fewer views of a story than a newsfeed post. So let's say I post something in my newsfeed and I get 2,000 views. When I post a story, maybe I'm going to get 500. But the difference with stories is, think of it as different audiences. So what we see is that there's people who go to Instagram and they just look at the stories only, and there's other people who look at the newsfeed only, or maybe primarily. So it's just another way to reach your audience. What's great about stories is that it's less cluttered from a content standpoint. So generally, there's not as many people creating as many posts. So it's a place where you can stand out. And because the stories take up the full screen, it's a much stronger brand impression. So if you haven't done so yet, I would try experimenting with stories. Ideally, your stories content should be framed vertically. But even if you have horizontal content you're already posting, you can go ahead and just add it to a story. It doesn't hurt anything to put that content there. So I would say try and use stories as much as possible without putting too much effort into them. It's almost like a bonus free way to get content out there. Another thing that a lot of people have success with still is lives. So you can go live on both Facebook and Instagram with video. It is an easy way to sort of share a video. You can also schedule them in advance. So if you schedule them, people get notifications. So then you get even more visibility because people are getting notified. So think about opportunities where you can do lives, and it can just be quick and casual stuff, right? So we saw the example where the sister was on the ladder. You could even do a quick live, like talking about, what kind of flowers they are. I don't know. I'm sure you could come up with something interesting about the setting that you want to share. And then the last idea, which I already sort of talked about, is establishing partnerships. So thinking about who else can we sort of create these promotion hubs with to get more visibility. But none of this will matter if you don't have that strategy in place first. So you always want to make sure that you're really starting. This is from last week's presentation in case you missed it, but all of the optimization tips in the world and understanding how Facebook works isn't going to grow your business unless you're really deliberate about your branding elements in it and creating interesting stuff for people. And so we saw in that one picture from Italo, I'm probably still saying this wrong, but we saw in that one picture a lot going on, right? It's personable, it's in the moment, she's wearing branded stuff. And you may look at that and that may feel like a lot to try to achieve at once, but I guarantee you, I didn't go back far enough in your Instagram account. It didn't start out that way. You're going to get better as you go. So if a lot of these tips feel intimidating or it feels like too much for you, keep in mind the best thing to do is to just start somewhere, and then you can always get better from there. One of the things that I would encourage you to do if you're already using social media is to literally put this in your calendar. Don't just think, oh, I should do this. Give yourself like a couple hours. 2 hours is probably fine if you have it. If you only have 1 hour, fine. Step back for a minute though, and look at what is or isn't working. What I find really surprising when I look at a lot of Facebook pages or Instagram accounts is I see people who just are posting again and again and again with no engagements and no reach. So I looked at a small business recently and they were posting 5 times a week and it was reaching 10 people. And subjectively, I would say maybe their content was a little boring, but what they were never doing is saying like, is this really working for us? What are we getting? What is working? What is not working? They got on, I call it the execution hamster wheel, where you get an idea in your head of what you do and you just start doing. So if you've been doing for a while, give yourself an appointment to step back, look at your analytics, establish what is working, what is not working, so that you can stop doing things that don't work. One of the things that frustrates me so much is when I see something, I can see it's probably not working, but some people do the same stuff for years that just doesn't really work. because they're not checking the analytics and then adapting their strategy based on it. So analytics might feel like a heavy word, but literally all you need to do is open up a page and say, well, which one got the most reach and which one got the least reach? So you don't need to be an analytical person to do any of this. But look at what works, what doesn't work. Look at other people's stuff. What's getting them content? What do you like that they're doing? How do you integrate that into your own strategies? I think for almost any business, there's a ton of people out there doing a great job. And I showed you a lot of examples today, and there's people on this call who are as well. So look at what they're doing and find a way to adapt it to your own strategy, because you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel every time, right? If I want to figure out how to market something, I go and look at the people who've done it longer, better than me. And then I try and implement and improve upon that approach, right? So you never want to copy someone. Like you certainly don't want to go get a ladder and pretend to be doing a wedding and like replicate that post I showed you. But all of this should be giving you inspiration that you can then take away and make your own. And then once you've done some analytics and looking, really go back to what we talked about last week with your content buckets and optimization, and really start trying to build out a specific plan there. And that's going to really set you up well for success. So we do have time for a few questions. If you have any questions that we didn't get to, next week we'll cover workflow. I'm going to give you some tools you can use and all of that kind of stuff to sort of save time and build it into your systems. But if you have any questions on the tools, we can answer them now. I see one question that has come in where somebody's saying, you know, it's a little bit intimidating because I'm just starting out and I'm not getting a lot of reactions. So it can be hard to keep posting. I'm with you on that. So I get it. So what I would suggest is so first, just step back and look at what you're posting, right? And look at like, do this stuff right here. Look at what you're posting, look at other people's stuff and see, okay, what am I doing well? And where do I have opportunities? Look even within your own social networks. Like I have some friends that sell these like MLM products. I don't really appreciate that business model myself, but some of them do a really fabulous job with like their Facebook lives. And I can learn from that. And I could put that into my own strategy if I wanted to. So build like a critical eye for yourself where you can start seeing, what's going on and start to get better ideas. But it does take some time. Social media is not something where you're going to see a response in 1 month or 2 months, but these strategies do work if you're consistent and if you do have to get some of the details right. So I would definitely look to that. Okay, the next question I see is everyone talks about the different ages of users on different platforms. Do you know what the average age is for each platform? Yes, I can. What I'll do is actually, I showed you earlier in the presentation. Here's what I'm going to add to the resources. This is actually, I'm going to give you guys my 2 favorite graphics that I've ever made. So we have 2 graphics that we've made for social media. One is this one. It lists out very simply all of the core best practices for the major social networks. Posting frequency, when to post, should you be using hashtags, what does best, etc. So I'm going to put this full graphic on. And the second thing I'll give you is we have one that looks similar, but it has the demographics and sizes of each social network. So I will give you that as well. I'll put those into the Dropbox as soon as we wrap up. And so you can go and grab those and it has the details. But to give you the high level, Facebook is everyone. The demographics almost match the population, except for people over probably 80, but Facebook only reports 65 plus. So Facebook matches the population. Instagram is going to be your under 40 audience. If I look at Twitter, Twitter's a little bit niche. It's definitely going to be, I wouldn't worry about demographics on Twitter. It's more the kind of person. Twitter, you're reaching like people who listen to public radio, people who have a lot of interests, they consume a lot of news. YouTube is basically everyone, but younger audiences watch a lot. LinkedIn is a professional network. more affluent and it skews older, 40 to 55 is where you'll find more there. Pinterest is women primarily, and that you're looking at sort of middle age, so 30 to maybe 50 on Pinterest. And then Snapchat, of course, younger audiences. So really the user base of Snapchat is under 30s. And the same would be true with TikTok, which I don't have there. So that's your quick overview, but I will share some detailed graphics with you as well. And then we do have another question. Is it okay to use the same post on different media? My suggestion is that you should adapt it a little bit if you have the time. Like, everything is in balance, if I can just step back a little, right? So there's best practices and then there's reality for you, right? And if you try and do everything completely to best practices, there's people with entire marketing teams doing that. You got to choose where you focus and focus enough on the right things to get traction. So what I would suggest with social media is it's a-okay to repurpose your content. Most people, except for like your Uber fans and friends and family, are not going to follow you everything you post on every network. It's good if you can adapt it a little. So like, you want hashtags on Instagram, you don't want hashtags on Facebook. So if you can adapt it a bit, I think that's fine. But what I always think about when it comes to repurposing is build and create for your most important one. So choose one focus. So I may say, look, my organic reach in Facebook, I know is going to be really low. I don't want to spend a lot of money on paid. So I'm going to focus on Instagram and then I'll replicate it on Facebook. So I'll optimize it for Instagram and it'll probably do fine on Facebook. And that's great. And so, it's fine. It depends on your resources. But I love, Janet said, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And I think choose one thing that matters most and don't worry if it's not perfect everywhere, because you can drive yourself crazy. You don't have the resources to be perfect everywhere. And you'll get a little better over time. Again, you look at these great accounts, go back to look at what they were posting 5 years ago. I've been doing this for a long time. I could show you posts from presentations I gave 5 years ago and show you how bad some of it was. But the more you do it, the more you get a feel for what works and doesn't work, and the easier it gets. Putting your branded clothing into something will just become second nature, not something you have to think about. So it all gets easier over time. So with that, I know I've kept you a little longer because I wanted to answer your questions. If you do have other questions, of course, you can send me an email, and I'll also be with you next week where we'll have more time for Q&A, and also we'll have the opportunity to go through some workflow stuff. If you have questions you maybe didn't feel like asking or that come up between now and the next time, write them down. I will wrap up officially on time because I just want to be respectful, but I'll stick around and answer any questions that you have next week because I know it's the last of these 3 sessions. So write down all your questions and then we can spend time together answering them. So with that, thank you all so much for joining. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I'll look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks for an incredible second session, Krista. And thanks everyone for making the time in your schedule to attend today's workshop. A recording of the session will be sent to you later this week. And if you haven't registered for the final session next week, what are you waiting for? Krista's content is amazing. So just go to ftdi.com and get registered now before you forget. And we just hope to see each one of you next Tuesday for the final session with Krista. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.